Thank you for signing up for this week's DIY workshop. Today we are making this beautiful macrame feather hanging. It is a time-consuming project, but it's something that you can put down and pick back up later, so there's no rush to finish it. There has been so much excitement around this craft, so I'm very excited to finally be able to share it with you. The only things that you need for this DIY is a coat hanger, or you could also use like one of those things that hangs on the back of doors to hold like bags or coats or whatever. You just need something that's going to stabilize but let the strings hang. It's way easier to work on something that is hanging and all the strings are sort of flat and aligned, rather than working on something flat like a table. They get crossed, it gets confusing, so find somewhere where you can hang this up. This is my setup for today. I'm just using the back of an office chair with a coat hanger. The second thing you're going to need is a stick. I have dropped off appropriately sized sticks in your bags. These are just from like the ravine near my house. You want something that's at least 1 finger thick because you want it to be able to hold the weight of the project.
You'll need a pair of scissors as well.
You're also going to need some sort of brush to brush out the macrame. That's what makes the feathering effect. Each cord of macrame that you have, you'll notice, is actually 4 cords wrapped together. So we just need to separate that. I'm using a metal brush for this. This is just my cat's brush actually that I have stolen for this project. But you can also use a comb or just a regular hairbrush. They do work, but a metal brush, if you have one, works definitely the best. And final thing that you need is just some macrame. I have dropped off some cord at your house. It should be enough for this project and maybe a little bit more. I know I got a lot of questions last time I did a macrame workshop, and this is just from Amazon. The most important thing, this is very important, if you are using a coat hanger or anything that has an enclosed loop, when you start this first part where we hang it, it's important to tie it so that you can then untie it and reattach it, because you don't want your project hanging off of this rod forever. Take your string, loop it through your coat hanger or whatever you're using to secure it, and sort of line it up with how you want it to hang. So then we can take our stick and just tie a regular, over under knot. Now on one side I'm going to make it a double knot because this is the side that I want to be secured. We're not taking this side out. And there are fancier knots that you can use to tie your original string onto the stick, but I'm just using that because it's easiest and it works. And then, like I said, we're just going to loop it through like that. Looks good. So on this side we're just going to tie a single knot because, like I said, we're going to have to undo this once our project is finished and we want to take it off of this hook here. So just make sure that it's, approximately, it's even on both sides. Okay, once you have your hanging ready, the next thing you're going to do is cut out all of the pieces of string that you're going to use for the project. Now, what I recommend is that you cut 2 really long strings that are approximately 4 feet each. Okay, and then on both sides of that, you're going to have 4 strings, 3.5 feet. Again, on either side, 3 feet. So we're going down by 1/2 foot each time. And finally, 2.5 feet for your shortest strings that are part of the main hanging. And I'll show you what that looks like on the ground. Now, if you want to make your hanging longer, and if you think you have enough string, you can absolutely make these longer. Just make sure that you keep them going incrementally shorter towards the outside. Okay, and then the final part is that you need a bunch of really tiny strings to make the feathers. I found that when I was doing this project, what worked the best were 5-inch pieces, because it's enough to work with so that you're not sort of struggling around, but then you're not, you know, cutting off a bunch of it in the end and wasting it. So you actually need, or anyway, I needed about 140 of these tiny little 5-inch pieces, because on each feather I ended up having, so they kind of go like this. And again, you'll see when I demonstrate, but I had about 20 pieces on each string, and I did 7 of them. So that's 140 in total. So I would suggest actually maybe cutting these out first and then seeing how much you have to work with here, okay? Sorry, it's a little bit mathy. I thought about cutting them up for you guys, but I wanted to give you a more hands-on experience. Okay, I hope that this isn't too hard to see. We're on the floor now, but basically what I've done is start to outline the shape of our project. So it's gonna be sort of a tapered triangle on the. Okay, I took this video during my trial run with this craft, and I learned that the strings needed to be longer, so that's why they appear much shorter than 2.5 to 4 feet. All of these parts up here are straight and evened out, so this is going to be the shape of the final product. These look like very long strings, and they are very long strings because when we actually make this, we're folding all of these strings in half, so they're actually going to be half the length that is shown here. So I've just gone ahead and folded them in half so you can see more sort of the length that the final project will be. When you're measuring these out, I find it's helpful to place your hanging on the ground with it so that you can sort of see how it's going to look. And then so we're going to be putting feathers on the bottom of each of these strings here. The best part about this project specifically is that if you make an accidental cut, you don't like the length of your strings or whatever, to make the feathers, we are using really small short strings anyway. Like even just like half of this will be the strings that we're using to make the feathers. So if you make a mistake, it's okay, because we're going to need a bunch of small pieces in the end, and you can just recycle these small strings that you've accidentally cut. Like I cut this one to go on the side here, but then I thought, oh, that's too short. So we're just going to use it as part of the feather instead. So remember that each of these sections is actually 2 strings, because that mirrors that and that mirrors that. So those are 4, 4, 2. So you're taking the shortest string and you're folding it in half so that there's a loop on this side. You're going to take that loop behind the hanging, pull it down, and then you're going to see there's 2 strings. Pull those 2 strings through that loop and tighten it. You want these 2 to be very close together, okay? And you're putting that near the outside, okay? And then right next to that, we're doing the exact same thing. Moving over, we're going to leave a little gap, but we're doing the exact same knot. Okay, at this point, we have all of our hanging strings on, so we can just rearrange them, make sure that this one is centered, because that's the longest string. So you want that right down the center there. And make sure that these are all evenly spaced out. So to secure each of these positions, we're going to do a square knot on each. So to do a square knot, see how you have, in each section you have 4 strings. So you're combining the 2 middle strings, okay? And then this outer string, the one on the left, is going over the 2 strings in the middle and then behind the string on the left. And the string on the left is going behind the 2 strings in the middle, and then you're pulling it through this loop here. So that's like a half square knot. So to complete the square knot, you're going to then do the opposite. Okay, so you're taking the left, crossing over the middle 2 and behind the one on the right, and then the one on the right goes behind the 2 and through the loop that's on the left here, okay? And then again, just pull it right to the top, okay? I don't know if you can see sort of how that looks. That's how the knot should be. I'm just going to repeat this for all of the sections. Then we're going to do the same knot, but you're going to combine these to make sort of like a triangle pattern, you see? So you're taking from the center set of strings, you're taking the 2 on the right, and then from the 1 to its right, you're taking the 2 from the left, and you're doing that same knot. So these 2 become the center strings, and this one goes over, under, under, over, the same way that we just did. And you want to make sure that you're creating a pattern that you like here. So if that is a good size that you want, then you can go ahead and tie it there. Maybe you want longer sections. It's up to you. I like shorter sections. So I'm taking it there, and then just completing the other half of the knot like we just did. Again, pull, make sure everything is good, and then pull the side strings to tighten it up. Okay, and then it makes a knot like that. And then you're going to do the same all the way along. So see how we use the right to make this one? We're going to use the left to go this way. And these ones on the end here, you can just let those hang down. That's fine. Then we're going to take it one step in. So now from this knot, again, you have the 4 strings, and you're going to take the 2 that are on the left and combine them with the next one over, the 2 that are on the right. Okay, and then those are your new 4 strings. The reason that we're not doing this one is because we want it to taper in and make that triangle shape. Okay, so you can see I'm almost done this V here. I'm just going to finish up this last square knot. Okay, and then you can sort of step back, take a look at it. Does it look even? I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so notice that the strings on the end have still kept that tapered V shape, which is exactly what we want. And we're going to, because this is where we are going to attach our feathers. I'm probably going to put 7 smaller feathers on here. I'm going to explain how to make these feathers by using these 2 examples here, okay, but this is sort of what the final product looks like. To make these feathers, you're going to take 4 strings at a time. So see how on this feather, there's 4 strings here, 4 strings here, right, okay? And then you're taking your little 5-inch piece, folding it in half to make that loop. This is the same loop that we used on the stick, okay? So we're making that loop, and then around these 4 pieces, behind the 4 pieces, you're gonna pull the loop around and pull those 2 strings through the loop, okay, and pull it tight. Make sure that you pull these really, really tight, because you don't want, when you go to brush them out, you don't want them to be coming out and falling everywhere, okay? It's also very important when you're putting the first few strings on here, see how this is kind of what it looks like when you've put a bunch of them on before you brush it out and cut it up. But it's very important to make sure that these are all straight. See, I didn't do it on this one and it's a little bit wonky. So make sure that they're all straight. You can see, okay, that's pretty good. And so see how I've pulled the strings to the right? So I'm gonna do that exact same loop, but this time I'm pulling the strings to the left, and then to the right again, and then to the left again. Now you want to layer them. See how long this is? This is not going to be the length of our final feather, right? So when I first started with this one, it was like all the way up here, but because we're squishing them, we're gonna squish them together in a minute, you do want it to be about twice the height of your final feather. These 4 center strings that you're using might not be the same length. See, I have a really short one here. That's okay as long as all 4 are contained within the top, 2 or 3 of these. So what I recommend is going higher, and then when we tighten them, pulling them downwards, okay? You just wanna make sure that all 4 strings are within the feather, because otherwise you're gonna have one hanging outside. Then we're just going to pull down, making sure the spine stays decently straight. And you see how much we condensed that? And I'm gonna do the same with this one here. You might want to pull from the middle, get all those ones down. So then we want to make sure that they're lined up. So this is even with this, I would say so, and this is even with this, and this is even with this. So then I'm just going to use this brush and sort of just brush it out. And if you're going to use a comb, I actually recommend like taking the string, rotating it in the opposite direction that it's rolled, and sort of just separating those 4 pieces that make up each string, then going through it with the comb, right? But just doing that makes it way easier to brush out. Okay, and once you've got it fluffed out, you are just going to sort of cut it into more of a feather shape. So we're going to give it like a V shape on the bottom. And I have a garbage can under here. And then on the top, just round it out a bit. So you can see how that side looks a lot more featherish than that side. And then we're gonna do the same thing with the final one. And once you complete all of your feathers, you're done. I can't wait to see how yours turn out, and I know it might take a little longer than our other projects, but I hope you have fun. Thank you so much for joining us.